Week one, we're going to talk about mapping your path to that objective. Week two is what the follow-up process. We're going to walk you through what that looks like. Week three is building the machine to launch, and then week four is opening the floodgates. So really what we're going to be going through today on this training is how to set all this stuff up and to be ready for it. We're going to do it all as fast as we possibly can.
Yeah.
So we're not going to try and make this super long, but you might be wondering, like, why are we doing this? Sometimes people are like, well, this is a free thing. Why are they doing that? And as much as we love doing these things, you know, a lot like you probably like teaching your classes, you do it for a purpose, right? You do it because you hope that somebody comes in, takes that free lesson, and then they love your style of teaching, they love your process so much, and then they decide to pay you to do it. That's why we're doing it too. So we just want to be upfront about that. We love teaching, we love doing this stuff, we love coaching. But honestly, we want you to see what it's like to get coaching, to learn from us, to be empowered with this knowledge, so that eventually you end up getting into a deeper relationship with us. Right? Is that fair enough? You guys, is that fair with you guys? We're not going to pitch you to death here. We're actually going to show you some stuff. What we want to do is show you we can actually help you by actually helping you. It's pretty simple.
And as we dive into that, just so you guys know, like John said, we are going to be going quick through this because we respect your time. We know you have things to do. Everybody in here that's registered, we're going to make sure we get you that replay too. So this is like, hey, get the groundwork, get your notepad out, take what you can, but don't miss it because you can always come back and review some of these things. And just like the lessons that you give, right? If someone came to take an intro lesson at your school or your studio, even if they didn't sign up, you would hope that they would walk away feeling like, wow, there was value. I got something out of that. And that's really our goal today is we want you to walk away from this, as Jennifer is appreciating our transparency. We want you all to walk away from this with something that you can take and have a roadmap and a strategy to get people in the door. And I know we have this idea of, okay, 4 weeks of full classes, that'd be awesome. If I could fill my school up in a month, absolutely, that would be great. Our goal today is to equip you in a 4-week window to always have full classes.
Yeah.
Not just like a one-time, oh, I got a bunch of students and then they kind of trickled off and then now what do I do? We want to equip you that in 4 weeks, you can have the tools and the skills and the platform to be able to have full classes all the time.
Definitely. Love that. Love that. And, part of the transparency and part of the process here in this free training is you're not locked in a room with us. If at any point you don't like what we have to say, or you just think you wouldn't enjoy working with us, you're free to go. We're not going to chase you down and wonder why you left the room. But on the flip side, if at any point throughout this process and throughout the call today, if you're like, you know what, I would like to get on a call and talk more directly with these guys, and maybe work directly with us, you can just type something in the chat like let's talk or let's schedule a call, and we'll make sure we get you set up with that call and spend some one-on-one time with you to actually work through some of this stuff. So, and if you have any questions, we're not going to be answering questions throughout the process. I'd love some engagement. So there might be a few times where we ask you for like some feedback, but if you have actual questions, feel free to type all your questions in the chat as you have them. And then we've set aside some time at the end if there's enough time. I don't think we'll go too long. I'm gonna go through this fast, but if you have some questions, type them in, and we're gonna be moving fast. So just make sure that you're jotting some notes down and answering those questions. So I'm curious with you guys. Speaking of engagement, which part of this process or which week are you most excited about learning today? Just type a 1, 2, 3, or 4 in the chat for which week you're most excited about getting into. Is it the mapping your path part? Is it the follow-up process? Is it the machine that we're going to build to launch everything? Or is it the actual week that we open the floodgates? Destry's looking at week 2. Awesome. The follow-up ninja process. Love that part. That's a very important part. One of the most pivotal parts of the process. Anybody else? Just Destry? Looks like maybe there's a little bit of a delay here. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, they're getting there. Yeah, they're coming in.
3, 4. Awesome. Okay.
Right.
Cool. Well, let's jump into it. I'm going to jump right into week 1. You got something to add, Travis?
Yeah, just on week 1, this is probably the one that people feel like I don't need the most. But as with anything, right? If you have a student that is trying to get to a certain level and they want to be an expert at your craft, you can't just focus on what they need to do at that last moment to become an expert. There's a lot of stepping stones. Like Bree Gates is trying to just said week 1 in the beginning. We got to figure out, how do we even get there? What milestones do we need to hit? How do we prepare for where we're trying to get? So that's why I love week 1. It's one of those ones that after people go through it and implement this process, they're like, oh my gosh, I should have done this 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Absolutely. Yep. And it's the one that most people, like you said, are the most eager to skip And almost every single time that a person feels like they need to skip it, we usually figure out that they need it the most out of everybody. So what we're talking about in week 1 is really just foundations. It's knowing your numbers. It's not like some walk in the park, mindset nonsense. There is an aspect of mindset to it, but it really comes because you need that foundation of how do you think about this stuff before you actually do it. Everything you do starts as a thought, right? So you can't just like go out and just get students without thinking about it. So we're just going to walk through a process of how to think about it. And one of the things that we pride ourselves on is knowing our numbers. Like our student magnet program, we know has generated over 360,000 leads. That's name, email, phone number of someone interested in trying a local school. 170,000 booked intro lessons. These numbers are just crazy, and you might be like glazing over at the size of these numbers. But 38,000 plus paying students have been gotten directly from the process we're going to show you. We know it worked. We know it works then. We know it works now. And the reason I'm showing this is because we know our numbers, but I have a question for you guys. Do you know your numbers?
There you go.
What are your goals for the next 12 months? And these are some of the numbers that we specifically are looking for. Like, obviously, the first one is how many students do you want to have? Like, what is the number? Is your tuition optimized to get you there? Are you charging enough? Are you charging too much? Do you know that it's in the right sweet spot for you? How much can you afford to spend on ads to get one student? Do you know that number? Have you thought about that? Have you thought about if I spend X number of dollars, that makes sense for me to spend if I get a student from it? Do you know how many intros you need to do to book and enroll a student? Some people don't know. And I would say a lot of people don't know that number, right? So do you know do you know if you're charging paid trials? So if you have someone that's coming in to try your school, are those trials paying for your ads? Because that's really where you should be. And one of the most important questions is, why are these your goals in the first place? Sometimes I hear people set their goals and then I go, well, what do you have that goal for?
Right.
And they don't even know.
Right.
Like, what are we even doing any of this for if we don't know why? What is it that you really are trying to achieve? And so this is really the foundation of week 1, is getting to know those numbers. So I'm curious, and I'd love to get some engagement here. How many of you that are watching right now, it's a good group here, so we should get a lot of engagement. How many of you have already set goals? If you have, just type goals set in the chat right now, or you can let us know what your specific goals are, or you can let us know what challenges you've been facing to reach those goals. And so I'd love to see it. We already got some people goal set. Man, Jennifer is like fast on the keyboard, man. She's in
it, man. She's front row taking notes. I love it.
There you go. That's my favorite. Excellent. Excellent. Carl's got goal set. Excellent. Excellent.
And as you guys are typing that in, just to kind of give you an idea, knowing your numbers are so important when you're trying to grow. For this webinar itself, for this workshop, I know that about 25 to 30% of people that register for it, like you all did, are going to come on. So if I want to get 30 people or 40 or 50 people, let's say I want to get 30 people on a webinar, easy math, I need to get 100 people registered. I know that for a fact. So when you're running ads or going to fairs or going to schools, how many people do you need to do X to get Y? And that's really important, because knowing those numbers, one, help you plan, but two, help you set expectations so you're not driven by your emotions.
Yes.
If I didn't know that a 25 to 30% conversion rate from registration to attendance at a webinar, I might be disappointed that, oh my gosh, so many people registered, but only this many showed up. I'm sitting here looking, going, oh, that's exactly what it should be, as opposed to being disappointed in something that's actually working the way it should. So that's so important as you try to get to a certain level, is knowing what your expectations are, and then knowing what's, if I input A, what should be B, so I know what to adjust or continue the course.
Definitely. I love that. That's great. I think one of the most valuable things out of coaching that I've ever gotten, and we've hired a lot of coaches, Travis can vouch, we've hired a lot of coaches. I think one of the most valuable things is just knowing what to expect. Like, if I do X, what is my Y expectation? And so something that's so important too is that there's a lot of people will set goals, but until you break that goal down into daily actions that you can actually do, regardless of circumstances, it really is almost impossible to accomplish a goal. So what are your daily actions? Some of you guys put in how many students you're looking to attract, how many students you want to get. Think about some of those daily actions of what is it going to take daily to get those things running. And one of the things that we say is a daily activity is really just tracking your progress. We call them KPIs. That's a fancy marketing word that some people don't understand it, but it really just means key performance indicators. And it really just translates to this is the stuff we look at. We just want to make sure we have expectations, and then we're tracking to make sure those expectations are met. So if we're running ads, we want to know how many leads, what is the cost per lead? How many dollars do we have to spend to get one person to give us their name, email, and phone number that's interested in trying the school? How many appointments have we set? How many people have signed up for a paid trial? How many people have enrolled as students? And then how many students quit? A lot of people don't talk about the people who quit, but there's always a percentage of students that end up either graduating out or quitting or whatever, moving away. There's always a number. And so if we know those numbers, you can see how easy it is to reverse engineer and actually accomplish that goal, like systematically and scientifically. For example, let's say you have a goal of adding 50 students in 12 months. So a nice modest goal, 50 students in 12 months. If you know that half your paid trials will enroll as students, and if you know that 90% of the people that you do an intro lesson with will sign up for a paid trial, and if you know that half of your intros show up, and if you know that half of your leads book an intro, then what we can figure out is how many leads we need per month. There's math involved, right? I know Travis always likes to say, I was told there was going to be no math.
Yeah.
Sorry if I stole your joke.
It's all good, man. I've used it too much. It's not mine anyway. It's from a movie.
Yeah. So the math of this is pretty simple. It's 100 trials to get 50 students to sign up and enroll, right? It's 112 intros to get 90% of those to pay a paid trial, right? And you can see how we kind of just reverse engineer this backwards. I won't go through all the math, but really what it comes down to is you need 38 leads in a month, right? Which doesn't sound like that much. And we know, and here's where we can really do some neat, interesting math that I like to call the flywheel. If you're selling a trial for $89 and you sell 100 of those in a year, that gives you a marketing budget of $8,900 per year. That means if you sell those trials, you can spend $8,900, which is about $740 a month, which means that for those leads, it's a little bit less than $20 per lead. And that's completely reasonable. Like most places, not everywhere, there's a lot of different factors that go into what the lead costs, but it's pretty reasonable to get a consistent lead cost under $20 on Facebook almost everywhere in the country. And if it's not, you're probably charging a lot more. And so your trials can be $90 or $99, and your monthly rates might be up in the 200s, where you can afford to pay a little bit more for lead anyway. So this is the kind of math you need to do, right? Because if you're going to spend money on ads, especially, you want to make sure that it's actually an investment and it's not just spending, right?
Right. And I talk to a lot of school owners, and so many, and feel free to chat it in if this is you. The marketing budget is kind of like, I don't really have one. I kind of use what's left over, or I kind of guess at how much I'm going to use, and there's no real understanding of what to expect from that. And then on top of that, there's no way to plan, right? Whereas if you know, hey, I'm going to get X number of leads for this much over this amount of time, and they're going to bring in this much revenue, then you can actually set a marketing budget and know exactly where your growth plans are, which then allows you to plan on hiring instructors, allows you to plan on remodels, allows you to plan to move, because you can predict the revenue that's coming in. And that's why setting those foundations, and I appreciate those of you that said, yeah, you're in that spot, right, where the marketing is kind of like what's left over, never really have it, organized as a line item. Knowing those numbers just allows you to be in control of the growth of your school the way you really have envisioned it to be.
Yep, 100%. So just to kind of give you like maybe a different way to look at this, if you were to spend $740 on ads using our process, the stuff that we show you, you would probably get at least 38 leads from that. You would book 10 intros from that. You would sell 9 paid trials. You would collect $801, and you would enroll 5 students. That would be our expectations. And if you didn't, we would start looking at each part of that process and being able to troubleshoot pretty easily what is stopping these conversions from actually happening, right? And if you were to do that, if you were to enroll 5 students, and if you're charging about $150 a month, you should increase your monthly revenue. Is that right? Math, 750? Yeah, I think it is. What's 750 by 5, Travis? Checking my math live.
150.
150, yeah. Pretty average, 150 a month. Will increase your revenue by 750. Now, watch the magic here. When you repeat this, right? You take that money you collected, that $801 from your paid trials, and you put that back into your ads, look at how closely that number kind of translates. And so that gives you the ability to repeat without reinvesting, right? Because you've basically collected this money because of the 740 you spent in the first place. So you make that one investment for 740, you pretty much get it back, you put it back in, and you just keep flywheeling this. And every month you're increasing your revenue by $750. And that turns into hitting your goal within that year, right? And so if any of you guys would like help figuring out these numbers or for your specific situation, just go ahead and type the word game or call or let's talk in the comments right now, and we'll make sure we hop on a call and we'll walk through your numbers with you specifically. But just to give you a quick recap of what we covered here, we talked about knowing your numbers. We talked about why numbers are important. We talked about what numbers to track, setting your goals, reverse engineering. And I'd love to get some commitment from you guys right now, whether it's working with us or not working with us, but out there in the world, there's a bunch of you guys on here right now. If you're committed to implementing this, just give us a thumbs up in the chat right now and let us know that this stuff is landing on you and that you're actually committed to making a difference in your school and actually taking it to a new level, growing.
Right.
I'd love to see some. If you're committed to just implementing,
again, it doesn't have to be with us. Just implement. We don't care. Like if we
Right.
hear from you a year from now that, hey, your free webinar is what got me to start taking action and now things are great. That's a win. That's our drive. That's why we're doing it today.
Right. Right. And we've heard that before. I've heard a lot of people. I've been on the phone with people and they're like, yeah, that first training you guys did that was free, I implemented some of that stuff and I already got students from it. And that's why I scheduled the call. So I love hearing those stories. That's my favorite kind of story. So hopefully, cool. Yeah, it looks like we got a bunch of people that are ready to implement. Good. Serious people. Okay.
Well, now, before the week one is probably the longest, I would say, John, because we're really kind of breaking down a mindset and breaking through a barrier. This other stuff is kind of technical and just kind of, hey, here's the systems you want in place. So we're probably going to get through these pretty quickly. Again, we'll send a replay out to everybody as well. But these next three are really just kind of like, all right, now that you know where you want to go, here's the bricks that you need to lay to make that path happen.
For all of you guys watching that don't know, that was Travis's way of telling me to hurry up.
It was. Because I respect y'all's time today.
Yes.
We can talk about this stuff all the time. You guys know. Same for y'all. And when people come into your studios, you can talk all day long about your history and all that. But
for sure,
also understand you guys have schools to run. So
yeah. So I'm sure you guys would all agree it's pretty easy to enroll a student once they set foot in your classes. And so the question always comes is, how do you get more people to actually come in and try a class? And the answer is follow-up. And what I mean by follow-up is leads are great. You can run an ad, you can get name, emails, and phone numbers. You can go out to an event, you can get name, emails, and phone numbers. You can do all this stuff, but if you can't get them to come in the door, it really doesn't make any sense to pay for that or to spend time getting them. And so, and I'm sure I'd love to know, just so I don't think I'm the only person in the world that ever did this, but how many of you spent time out in the community collecting names at like a booth or a festival, and you leave exhausted, and then you realize that the work hasn't even started yet? You did all that work over the weekend, right, at the blues festival, and then you got to get back to the studio and you actually got to start calling these people and emailing them and texting them, right? And so, and what's worse is sometimes you've spent money on ads. I know I've done this, or flyers or postcards or boosted posts or whatever, only to get leads, but then you just struggle to get the appointments. And it's a pretty common theme. Most of the schools we work with, they report that before working with us, about 20% of the leads from their ads would actually book an appointment for a lesson in that first month, if they ever do it all. And I'm wondering if you guys are having about the same experience, but 20% is about the standard that we hear before working with us. We're going to share with you right now the absolute easiest way to get 50% of your leads to book an appointment within 7 days. And if you think about that, that is twice as effective and 4 times faster. How many of you guys, just a show of hands in the chat, how many would like to be twice as effective and 4 times faster at getting students? Let us know in the chat if you would benefit from an increase in efficiency and speed like that. Twice as effective.
I'd like my diet to work like that, John. Twice as effective, 4 times faster.
For sure. Twice as effective and 4 times faster. That's what we're going to show you. So it really begins with the plan that's based on the results that we're trying to get. Thank you guys in the comments. I appreciate the engagement there. Starting with the end in mind. So our end is actually fully enrolled students, right? Because there's a lot of people that will try a lot of things. There's a lot of different ways to run ads. There's a bunch of ways to do follow-up. There's 100 schools of thought on things. But if we start with, okay, what we're really trying to get is fully enrolled students that are going to stay for the long haul, right? The best way to get fully enrolled students, what we found, is to have people try classes for at least 2 weeks. And this is where it can get a little hairy, right? How do we get people to try classes for 2 weeks without growing broke? We don't want to do it for free, so we have to do a paid trial, right? And I know there's a bunch of people that might argue this point, but what I found is that it's pretty hard to get a commitment from somebody to do free classes for 2 weeks. It's really hard to get them to show up for classes. It's really hard to fill up and to keep going. And it's really hard to maintain that long term, especially if you're paying for ads to do a free trial. So paid trials are the best way to get people to try classes for at least 2 weeks, right? And how do we sell paid trials? We do an intro lesson, right? So we bring people in, we let them try a lesson out, right? And so then the common questions we normally get are, well, how do you get people to show up? How often do you follow up with the leads? What do you say to them? How does it come across? How do you avoid, this is the biggest one. How do you avoid feeling like you're bothering them, right? Somebody's like, I'd like to do a free trial or I'd like to do a paid trial. And then you have to constantly follow up with them like, hey, you haven't paid for your trial yet. You haven't done this. You haven't done that, right? You feel like you're bothering them. So before we get into that follow-up process, what we have to really cover first is the offer that we advertise, because this is where it gets interesting, because it comes together in a way that you probably don't expect. So the question, how do we get people to show up for intro lessons, is we actually advertise a free week pass. And now I know you're probably thinking, well, hold on a second. I thought you said paid trials. Now we're giving away a free week. What's going on with this? And so let me explain this. We advertise a free week for really 3 reasons. And those reasons are, number one, it removes the risk for someone to take action. All they have to do is give you their name, email, and phone number. Now we have the right and the obligation to follow up with them because they've requested that free week pass. Number 2, it creates this natural urgency to come in quickly, right? If we sell them something or we tell them to go to this page to buy something, there's no urgency. There's a lot of risk involved. They have to get their credit card out. They have to talk to their spouse. They have to look over their schedule. With a free week pass, we tell them as soon as they get that pass on our ads, we say, hey, your pass starts tomorrow. What's a good time for you to come in? So then what happens is that starts a countdown clock in their minds right away. Oh, I've got 7 days to use this pass. I better use it. And then if they forget to book with us, we just send them reminders to book their first lesson before it expires. So you're actually doing them a favor. It creates this natural urgency that they'd want to get the most out of the pass, right? If I said, hey, I'll give you a free pass, and you're like, sure, I'll take it. I hand it to you and I go, all right, it starts tomorrow. When's a good time for you to come in? You're not going to think, oh, I can use this whenever I want to. You're going to be like, oh, it starts tomorrow. Now I need to book this, right? So it's natural urgency. But the best part is we almost never actually have to give away the entire week for free. And I'm going to show you exactly how we do that. Once someone has come in for the first lesson and they participate in that first class, we already know they're ready to get to that next level of commitment. You know, I know, somebody experiences your class one time, they either love it or they don't. We can pretty much agree. Nobody's going to be like, I'm not sure if I really like this place. I'd like to try it for another couple of days before no, they know right away. And that's what we call the paid trial upgrade. And here's how it actually works. I'm going to walk you through this too. So at the end of their first lesson, you can prompt them with basically 2 options. You just present it. It might sound like this. Hey, I see you're here on the free week pass. It's great. Little Johnny here can come in all week in his street clothes and participate in class. No problem. So you're giving him that option to take that free week. It's not a bait and switch. You're not telling him, oh, sorry, we ran out of free weeks. All we have are these paid trials. No, you're saying, hey, you can do the free week. No problem. We also have a different introductory offer. I think it's better, but I'll let you decide, Mrs. Smith. So you're putting it back on the parents. This one's a full month class, and it's only $89. Little Johnny here gets a little more time to try it out, and it comes with this free uniform or leotard or shoes or gloves, whatever you're teaching, some kind of token that makes little Johnny feel like part of the class. That's the important part. So you would say it's $89. You get a little more time to try it out, and it comes with this free uniform, so little Johnny here feels like part of the class. It's totally up to you. You can do the free week in the street clothes, or you can do the full month for $89, which comes with this free uniform, so that little Johnny here feels like part of the class. Which is better for you? If you did that, what did that take? 30 seconds, including explanation. If you did that with every student that came in for a free week pass, 90% of them are going to upgrade. We know this. It doesn't require a sales pitch. You don't need to break out the binders and sit them down and talk about commitments. There's no sleazy tactics. You won't get objections. No one's going to ask to think about it or talk to their spouse or look at the schedule or check their calendars or see how it interferes with none of that stuff. It's simple, it's effective, and literally we say 90% will take the upgrade. Our experience has been closer to 99%. It's pretty much everyone that comes in for that first lesson upgrades to the paid trial. Is that making sense? Are you guys catching this? Is this landing on you guys? Everybody's still awake over here. I'm not boring you, right?
Yeah, and as people are looking at that, keep in mind that if your experience with leads coming in the door is only through your website or word of mouth, you might say, well, I don't need to do that for them. If we're effectively marketing to a broader audience to keep our classes full, then we are getting people in that this is their first experience in a school like yours. They've never thought about it. They aren't coming from another place. They don't have a friend in the class. They literally just thought about your school yesterday when they opted into the ad, and now they're coming in. So we need to take them through a different process to get them to make the right decision for themselves and make a financial commitment to the school than we would someone coming in from a referral or someone coming in from a different dance studio or a different martial arts studio or whatever, because they already have experience. So we definitely want to, understand that these people are people that, hey, and I love it because if you're their first experience at what you do, they will probably stay with you forever because your curriculum is awesome. Your community is awesome. And they will become your biggest heroes. And they'll start telling everybody about it because they'll feel like they just discovered you in their lives. And why didn't they? Whereas people that come from other places already make decisions, they don't really do that as much because they've already been in that type of culture and environment before. So I love people that come in this capacity because they become like lifetime buyers. Their siblings join, their parents look to get involved. It's such a great thing, but we just got to take them through this little bit of a different path to allow them to see the value and make the right decision for themselves and for their family.
100%, 100%. I'm curious to know with the size group we have on is great. How many of you have run ads and gotten maybe appointments in and then felt like all the leads were no good? You guys ever feel that way? Most of the time, that feeling, yeah. I knew there were some of you out there. Most of the time that comes from not necessarily, it could be the ads, it could be the offer, it could be all that stuff, but a lot of times it really comes from the process behind it. And if you look at the way this process is built out, it's actually built on those decision points around the potential student and not based on anything that you might pre-assume. The decision-making process, that's what this is built around. And that's what makes it so powerful. So now that you understand why we advertise the free week, we'll talk about that follow-up process really quickly. Because if your goal is 38 leads in a month, that's like a lead a day, and every once in a while, 2 leads, right? And so if you're going to follow up for a week, by the end of the month, that's a lot of conversations you're going to be having at different stages of the process.
Unlimited text plan ready.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so we use a lot of automations to do about 90% of the follow-up. And the secret behind automations is really this thing we call hybrid intelligence. And basically all that means is we let the robot do all the follow-up with the leads until they respond. And then once someone responds or asks a question or something like that, we take over the conversation manually to give it that personalized touch because no one likes talking to robots. I'm sure you can all agree. So
you guys all experienced it to get into this workshop. I automated all those messages to send out to you, the confirmations. But then Shelly a little bit earlier asked if we needed a code to get into the Zoom meeting. I said, nope, you can just use the link and get right in. I handled that manually. So
there you go.
You guys experienced it on your ends getting here.
That's right. Exactly. So this is what no one wants, these robotic messages, because what happens if you don't have it set up correctly, you'll have automations that go out and they either have to be watered down. So they're like these junk benefit emails, like the benefits of this are blah, 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 which no one cares about that stuff except us. We care about that stuff. But, as the people presenting it, we're like, oh, all the benefits are so great. But the leads, they just want to get into the school. And so if we can automate messages and say, hey, let's book that appointment. And then as soon as they book that appointment, the system's smart enough to go, okay, they booked their appointment. Now let's remind them of the appointment. We don't have to. And then if they ask a question, we're not sending them another automated message. If we send you a message like, hey, I noticed you scheduled or you asked for that free week pass, but you haven't scheduled it yet. And then they reply back and they go, well, are you open on Saturdays? And then a day later, we send them another message that says, hey, I noticed you haven't booked. We don't want to do that, right? Okay. We want to make sure if they say, are you available on Saturdays? We can get in there and manually say, yes, we have classes, or no, we don't. How about Monday? So that's why we do this kind of hybrid thing. They get very personalized messages. They book an appointment. The system recognizes that. If they ask a question, we can pick up the conversation seamlessly and put them right back into the automations that are appropriate to where they're at in the process. And they never know the difference between the robots because it's all tied together. It's a very easy to use platform. It also makes it really easy, to know that we're only interacting with the most qualified and most interested leads. And we can pretty much ignore the quote unquote bad leads because we know, right? We looked at those numbers. If we get 100 leads, we might get 10 students from that. So 90 of those leads are never going to take any action. Why would we spend time just going over that and over that? Just let the system, let the good ones rise to the top with the automations. And so before you get hypnotized, I know this is a place where people get sidetracked and they go, what is this amazing technology? I must have it, please. And their eyes start to, remember the snake from Jungle Book? They get hypnotized and they're like, I need the software. The software is great, but it's better to have good processes and no automations than to have the best automations and no process, right? There's a million different softwares. There's all sorts of stuff that you can do. There's a million ways to do it. But if the process isn't in place first, the automations actually are worse. In fact, if you're asking the question, what software to use, you're actually missing the point because automations just speed up the existing process. So if your current process is wasting your money, what do you think is going to happen when you automate it? It's just going to burn the money faster, right? It's going to burn the money faster. So the software is not as important as the process. The software is valuable if you have a good process. How many guys are having light bulb moments? Let us know in the chat if something is going ding and you're having that moment of like, okay, yep, it's making sense now. Good. Got some people in there. Excellent. Excellent. So if you would like some help improving or implementing this process and the system, go ahead and type the word game in the comments right now. We can chat about that. But maybe you're like, you know what? This sounds great if you have leads coming in, but how do you actually get those leads, right? And that's where week 3 really comes into play. And that is what we call building the machine. And
to kind of recap, week 1, we got to get our mind and our plans in place, right? Week 2, we need to understand, and this is any process that you're trying to grow. It should take you 4 weeks to implement a system like this so you have consistent growth in full classes. Week 2, we need to know how to get the fish in the boat before we catch the reel. We don't want to throw a fishing line out in the water, but not know how to reel it in, not know how to keep it, not how to get it into the boat, because then you're just catching fish all day and getting frustrated because you're not actually accomplishing the goal, which is to get enrollments. So now that we've spent 2 weeks implementing processes, and you can do this faster, but basically, 2 weeks at like 30 to 45 minutes a day implementing these processes. Now you're in a position where, okay, now I can directly cast that reel out, cast that net out to a wider audience in my community to get more people into the school.
Absolutely, 100%. So building the machine is really about one thing, and that's getting ads, specifically one simple ad that we run on Facebook and Instagram. And there's really 4 keys to a successful ad. I'm not going to get too deep into these, but really, if you have a good offer, like what are the benefits of what you're teaching? If you have a good vehicle, how do they get that benefit? If you have a good audience, like who am I targeting? And you have a good call to action, what do they get, or what do they have to do to get what they want? That will create a successful ad. This is a similar ad to one we've been running for probably the last 6 years. It runs 365 days a year. It doesn't require much updating. Maybe we swap out the pictures every now and then. Once we have the good target in, we're pretty much dialed in. So you can see it has a target audience, right? It has a vehicle, it has an offer, and it has a call to action. And those are really the 4 keys to a good ad, right? So if you have those things in place on your ad, that's all you really need. And the machine is what ties it all together. So we set our goals, we know our numbers, we know what to expect. We run the ads for that free week. We book those intro lessons in the first 7 days. We upgrade them to the paid trial on day 1. And that's how we really enroll students at will. It's on demand. And you can see how it all ties together. We set the goals so that we know what's our budget for the ads, how many leads do we need. From that, we know how many intro lessons. From the intro lessons, we know how many paid trials. And from that, we know how many students we need to enroll. And that's it. And then once we have the machine put together and everything's functioning correctly, then we just open the floodgates. And that's really what week 4 is all about, is getting things going. And so that really just comes down to, once everything is built and in place, it's investing that $700 or whatever it was to hit your goal, right? And if you've reverse engineered this from week 1, you can't just jump to opening the floodgates because then you wouldn't know how much to invest, right? And then you know what your expectations are. We should get 38 leads. If we don't, we need to figure out what's wrong with the ads. And we need to book 10 intro lessons from that. Or actually, we should probably book, more than 10, but actually do 10 intro lessons.
Yeah.
Sell 9 paid trials at $89, collect that $800, enroll 5 students from that one investment of $740. Now watch what happens with that. If you enroll 5 students, you increase your monthly revenue by $750 a month. You put that 800 back into 700 into your ads, right? And reinvest that 740. Now what happens is in 12 months, you actually get 60 students. And if you have a little bit of attrition there, you've hit your goal. It's really that simple when you have the systems and processes in place. And using this system really gives you, if you think about it, an unlimited potential to grow by attracting students at will with an ever replenishing ad budget. Are you catching that? You see how that works? You put the money in, you get the money out, you put the money in. It's like the hokey pokey of ad management, right? You put a 700 in, you take 700 out, shake it all about. Using this system gives you an unlimited, ever replenishing ad budget. And so now that you have this information, now that you know the 4-week process, now that you've seen it all kind of play out, you actually have a choice to make. I love this quote. I don't know who to attribute it to. I'd love to know who said it, but knowledge is like paint. It does no good unless it's applied. If you take everything you learned on this webinar and you stick it in a can and you put it on a shelf, it's not doing you any good, right? So you have a path, you have a choice to make. And I'd love to know, we have a lot of people on right now. How many of you actually work with us, don't work with us? That's not the question. The question is, how many of you are honestly committed to accomplishing the goals that you have? I mean, truly, honestly committed to accomplishing the goals. You set goals and truly committed to accomplishing those. Let us know in the chat if you're actually really, truly, honestly committed to those goals. A lot of times, I'll be honest, I've set goals in my life that I wasn't really committed to accomplishing. In my late 20s, I still had the thought of being a rock star in my mind. And then one day somebody asked me, are you willing to do everything it takes in order to reach that goal? And I thought long and hard about it and realized I was not actually committed to that. It wasn't realistic for me to have that as a goal. But if you're really, truly committed to accomplishing those goals, you actually have some options here, right? We know that there are lots of options. Option 1 is to do nothing, aka some people will call this, well, I just need to wait, right? Or I have all this other stuff, all these other barricades in front of my first action step that I can't do unless X, Y, and Z happens. That's called doing nothing, right? You could do nothing. You could wait. That's one option. You have that option. You're free. So far, it's still a free country. The last time I checked, you can wait. You can also try to do this on your own. You can keep watching free trainings. You can keep downloading free resources. You can keep watching your competition on the surface. You can try to see what they're doing and try and model after what you think is working. But the truth is, those are only 2 of your options. You also could pay an expert to do it for you, right? There's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of agencies. There's a lot of gurus that will do this kind of thing for you. And you can also learn from an expert how to do it on your own. And so there's a lot of different options, but I will tell you, and I hope I'm not stepping on any toes, but if you are the do nothing, aka wait, I'm just going to tell you right now, it's the quickest path to failure. If you do nothing and you wait too long, nothing ever happens, right? And if you try to do it on your own, it is the absolute most expensive and time-consuming way to do it. Some people say, I can't afford to pay an expert, so I'm going to try and do this on my own. And I will tell you from experience, I wasted more money running ads that I didn't know how to run than I did paying an expert to learn how to run the ads. It was such a time. It was not only a time saver, but it was also a money saver.
John, can I add to that too?
Yeah, I think, absolutely.
For me personally, I was a teacher before this. I was a high school teacher. I won't get too long-winded. And I was the income I was making, it was very like, hey, how can I cut costs? How can I learn things on my own? I was in an education environment. How can I, reverse engineer things and just save any penny I could? And it wasn't until I actually invested in a coach and a mentor after I left teaching that I realized the benefit, not only of the speeding things up and getting it done the right way, but what it did to me as far as actually executing, as far as actually doing what I said I've been wanting to do for years. A great example would be if you join Planet Fitness, nothing against Planet Fitness. It's $10 a month. If you don't go, is it really that big of a deal? No. If you join a gym that's $250 a month, you better believe you're in that gym, right? Actually,
Right.
that worked out for me. I bought one of those like at home like mirror gyms, and it was really expensive. But I was like, if I spend this much money, I'm gonna work out. I had a Planet Fitness membership for a year and a half. I might have went like 3 times,
Yeah.
but I bought this at home gym and I spent thousands of dollars. And yeah, I was working out on my own, but the investment forced me to finally take action. And that's a biblical thing too, that, you go, your money follows your heart. It's not the other way
That's it.
around. Your heart doesn't, your money doesn't follow your heart. So when you invest in yourself, you actually start taking those steps. A lot of times the reason why we haven't taken the steps is because it's easy to not have to. It's easy to say, well, there's no loss if I don't. I challenge you to answer this question. How much money are you losing by not taking action? Sometimes
Mm.
we think about how much am I saving by not investing in something? How much are you losing by not investing in something? We all sit there and say, oh, I would have invested in Apple when they first opened had I known. Or are you investing in your studio knowing, right? And I don't
Yeah.
say that has to be with us. That could be with someone else. Maybe you've already been talking to somebody that's a perfect fit for you. Then get on the phone with them and get going. If you haven't, I'd love to learn more about your studio. But that was a big eye opener for me, John, a long time ago. Was wow, the money actually makes me take action.
Hmm. Definitely. Not only that, but if you were already the person capable of accomplishing the goals you have, you would have already accomplished the goals you had, right? So there's always a growth process, and the easiest and fastest way to grow is one of those two options. So if if you are committed and you're honestly committed to these are your best two options: pay an expert to do it for you, or learn from an expert how to do it. We actually offer both of these types of services. We offer a done for you solution where you literally don't lift a finger and you just do it. We do it all for you. We also have a done with you solution that we would also call coaching, where we'll actually walk you through exactly what we would do for you, then just let you implement it and then help guide you and give you the processes. So those are the two ways that we help school owners, that we've helped. Gosh, it's
Probably
probably
about 500 now.
500. Yeah,
Yep.
500 schools at this point that we've helped either with the done for you or done with you solution. And this is what we do. So now what you're tasked with is you're at a crossroads. You've been equipped with some insights. You've taken the pill. I don't know, which one is it? The red pill or the blue pill
It
that
depends.
leads you
I'm
out
not
of
going
the,
to say because that gets
I don't know. Somebody's
one of the
somebody's
pills.
you took the pill to get you out of the matrix. Now your eyes have been open, the scales have fallen. Now, what do you do with that? And so, what we would love to invite you to do is just book a call with us. And the way we do it is really simple. If you're watching us on Zoom, you can type in the comments ready. If you're on some other platform, there's probably a comment spot. Just type the word, can I schedule a call? It's perfect. Thank you, Don. Anybody that wants to schedule a call, you can absolutely do that. We're going to put a link to in the comments that you can just click, so you don't have to even type anything. You don't have to let anybody else on this Zoom call even know. Only we'll know. You just click right there. Travis just posted the link in the comments. And you can go there and you can click on what kind of school you have and then get right into our calendar. And then what'll happen is, we'll get on the call. We'll talk through some stuff about your school. If it sounds like it's a good fit, we'll let you know. If it sounds like it's not, we'll let you know. I'd say probably about 20% of the time, we'll tell you, like, is that accurate, Travis? About 20% of the time, the school just isn't ready, and we'll
Not
tell them.
ready, or this just it won't work. It won't work for them. We just talked this morning about a
Mhm.
school who's great school, great owner, but it just the way they operate. They could try it till they're blue in the face. It wouldn't work for them, and I don't want to put them in position. Just like if someone came into your school and says, "Well, I hate martial arts or I hate dance," well, are you going to
Right.
sign them up?
Right. Yeah. Hopefully
Awesome,
not.
Jennifer.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And this
Part
is
of
my direct calendar. You guys spent 45 minutes of your day with us. I want to make sure that I'm blocking off time on my calendar for you. Okay, because I want to repay the favor to help you guys get in the right direction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And really just think about, like, why don't you just take a second? If you're nervous at all about booking this call, first of all, it's not going to be a sales pitch. Most of the talking is you're going to be doing most of the talking on this call. We're not going to be doing hardly any talking. It's all going to be about your school, and we're going to learn about your school. And then from there, we can help you decide whether it's a good fit. And at the end of the day, it's always going to be your decision. We're never going to, hard sell you or try to convince you or persuade you of anything. That's
Someone
not our
messaged
job.
me yesterday. I'm not interested in a long salesy pitch. And I said, neither am I. I hate long salesy pitches. Can't stand
Yeah,
them. It's not my identity. I just want to talk to you guys about your school, see what's
right.
going on, point you in the right direction. If it's us, cool. And we'll let you know what we do ahead of time. So that way we know what that direction looks like. If it's
Yes,
not, cool. Let me get in the direction of somebody else. There's been plenty of times I've connected people with other leaders in the industry that are really good fit for what they're doing. I don't
absolutely.
want you to jump on this call thinking you need to buy something. I want to jump on this call, have coffee together. Hey, if we can help you, cool. If not, that's fine too. I still, I still operate and we still help other schools. So we want to make sure it's the right fit for you.
Absolutely, 100%. But if you're at all like nervous or thinking like I'm not sure if this will work for me, think about the results. Think about the growth, the prosperity, the impact that you can have on future students, the type of impact you can have on your community, the potential if you had an unlimited ad budget, if you had an unlimited reach and could reach all the potential students in your area. Imagine what that would do for your life, for your personal life, for your school. Maybe there's some things going on that you could really use some extra revenue for. Maybe you have some equipment you need to replace. I mean, there's all this freedom that comes from having a process like this in place. And that's really where we get excited to see. There's countless, countless stories that Travis and I have just been on a private call with each other, and we'll be like, "Hey, did you see Derek in the group? Did you see what he posted? Did you see what happened? He just came back from his vacation. He had 15 appointments. Like, isn't that cool?" Like, we get excited about the progress that you guys make. So, I want you to know kind of where our hearts are at and what this really is about. It's about helping you. It's not about selling you something. It's not about signing you up for some service that's ongoing. Like, we're not interested in that. We want to help. We want to make an impact because we know that the more people we help, the better off we are. And we're only looking for success stories. So we're not going to try and convince you or talk you into anything that's not going to be a good fit for you. So we've pretty much reached the end of this workshop. I didn't see any questions come through, so I guess we must have been like perfectly articulate and nothing confusing at all. So that's great. I love that. There might have been a couple of questions. I might have missed them. You were managing those, but this is the end of the webinar. So if you haven't yet, make sure. We look like we got quite a few booked already, so that's great. If you're ready to transform your school and really turn it into a student magnet, just type the word ready in the comments. We'll help you get that call set up. And we'll help you get onto this journey of growth and success. And or if you haven't already, you can click that link in the chat. But we're going to be ending this webinar. And so this is it. This is the end. Anything else we need to add here, Travis?
I don't think so. I really, the only other thing I think, John, you said, if you're not sure, I'm scared to book a call because I'm not sure if this will work. Then let's book a call and find. I'd rather find out it doesn't work, right? Don't
Yeah.
say no for yourself. Don't say no for us.
Yes.
It's kind of like when you were dating. I'm not sure if he'll say yes. Well, if you don't ask, he definitely will say no. If you don't ask her, then yeah, there's no opportunity. So there's no fear in jumping on these calls because if it's not a fit, I'm going to tell you it's not a fit and I'll tell you why, maybe what needs to change or maybe what's a better fit. And that's value, right? Coming off that call and just having that value of understanding, hey, if I ever wanted to do something like this is what I would need to adjust, or this is the place I need to get to. So that's really all I had.
Awesome. Well, I wanted to thank everybody for joining us today. I want to thank you for spending this was a pretty quick one, actually, 50 minutes. I think it could have been
Not too bad.
quicker. It could have been a little.
There's so much good content. I don't want
I
to rush
know
through it.
it's
But
hard to.
if you
What
did
would
miss
you cut?
anything, I know a couple people jumped in late. We are going to send out the replay.
Yep.
So just make sure you keep an eye out for that. I'll send that out. We want to edit the video, make it look nice for you. I'll probably have that out for you tomorrow.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us, and looking forward to helping those of you that booked your call. If you haven't booked a call yet, you're not ready, that's totally fine too. I want to thank you for joining us as well. I want to encourage you to take action on the stuff that we talked about today, even if you don't book a call with us, even if you're not, interested in working with us ever. I really want to encourage you to get out there and commit to those goals, set those goals, commit to the goals, and actually do the work to get those goals accomplished. So thanks again for joining us, and we will see you here on the next one, huh?